Welcome back. Let's get right into lesson 4. Lesson 4 is called Model, Decimal, and Fractions. Right under the title, it says you can write a decimal as a fraction. Both a decimal and a fraction show part of a whole. Now, if you've been doing the rest of these lessons with me, you're going to be fine on this lesson because I've been showing you the whole way as how to write the fraction and the decimal, okay? So the first part says write 0.4 or 4/10 as a fraction with a denominator of 10. Write the decimal in the place value chart. So I'm going to make sure that my decimal is lined up here. So I've got a 0 before the decimal and a 4 right after it. So I would read that as 4/10, okay? Shade the grid to represent 4/10. So I would shade in 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths of that model, okay? Then it says write it as a fraction. Remember, I always say part over whole, part over whole. So what part is shaded in? 4. How many's in the whole? 10. So 4/10 or 0.4 is the same as 4/10 or 4 over 10. Think of 0.4 as 4/10 or 4/10. Check. The number line shows that 0.4 right here is 4 out of 10 because if you count how many not squares, but spaces are here, 1, 2, 3, 4 is where 4/10 is, and there are 10 in the whole. This is going to be a very easy lesson for us because I've been showing you this all along. All right, let's move on to the next page. And I'm going to write 0.45 or 45 hundredths as a fraction with the denominator of 100. This one says to use a number line. So it's showing us that on this number line that 0.10 is the same as 10 100ths, 0.20 is the same as 20 100ths, and so forth. So it's showing us that 0.45 is going to come between 0.40 and 0.50. So it would be 45 hundredths or 45 hundredths as a fraction. So 0.45 can be written as 45 100ths. All right, let's move on down to part 1. It says, shade the models below to show how 0.7 or 7/10 and 0.70 or 70 100ths are equivalent. So if I shade in 7/10, I'm going to shade in 7 of these areas. Give me just a second to do that. Okay, so I have 7 of my areas shaded in. So that's 7 out of the 10, right? So 7 out of 10, okay? Then if I want to shade in 70 100ths, it's kind of the same thing because each of these lines have 10 100ths in them. So I'm just going to shade in 7 lines or 7 columns, I could say. And if there's 10 in each of those, that means I've colored in 70 out of 100. So if you look, they take up the same amount of space. They're just divided up evenly. It says write 2 fractions that represent the models in exercise 1. Well, actually, I got ahead of myself and did that up here beside of it. So 7/10 is the same as 70 100ths. Okay. Number 3, it says explain how you could write 9/10 as a fraction with a denominator of 100 without using models. Well, let's look at this. If I have 9/10 and I want it to equal a certain amount of 100ths, what did I do to my 10 to get 100? I multiplied by 10. So whatever I do to the bottom of my fraction, I have to do to the top of my fraction. So I'm going to multiply it by 10. So 9 times 10 is 90. So 9/10 is the same as 90 100ths. If I take that a little bit further, I would say that 0.9 or 9/10 is the same as 0.90 or 90 100ths. All right, number 4, explain how you could write 0.78 or 78 hundredths as a fraction with the denominator of 100 without using models. Well, I've talked about this all along. Whenever I'm reading a number that is a decimal, I look at place value. This is the ones, this is the tenths, this is the hundredths. My number ends in the hundredths. So if I read that, I say 78 hundredths. Well, I know when I say 78 hundredths as a fraction, the 78 is my numerator and my hundredths is my denominator. So very easily I can look at a decimal and turn it into a fraction because I know how to read decimals. You use place value. Okay, place value is very important. It's one of the very first things we learned this year. All right, let's move on to the practice page. There are a lot of questions, it looks like, but I bet we can zip right through it because we know how to do this stuff. All right, let's read the directions first. It says, write each decimal as a fraction with the denominator of 10 and shade the grid. So if I have 2 in the tenths place, that's written as 2 tenths. So I'm going to have 2 as my part and 10 as my whole. So the part I'm going to shade in is 2. Okay, super simple. All right, if I have a 7 in the tenths place, I'm going to read that as 7 tenths, and as a fraction, it's 7 tenths, which means I'm going to have 7 of my tenths shaded in. So let me get that done. So 7 of my tenths shaded in. Good deal. Okay, next one, I've got a 3 in my tenths place, so I'd read that as 3 tenths. So as a fraction, it is 3 tenths. And then I'm going to shade in 3 of my tenths, just like that. Okay. Number 8, I have 5 tenths because 5 is in the tenths place. So I'd write that as 5 tenths, which means I'm going to have 5 of these shaded in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. All right, number 9, I have 6 tenths because 6 is in the tenths place. So I'm going to write it as 6 tenths. And then I'm going to shade in 6 of my columns. 5, 6. There we go. Okay. And then on number 10, I have 1 tenth because my 1 is in the tenths place. And that means I'm just shading in 1 of my columns. Okay, so that is how to shade in tenths. Now, if you look down here at the bottom, our models are divided into hundredths. So we have to think of out of 100, okay? So 39, the 9 is in the hundredths place, so I would say 39 hundredths, and as a fraction, that would be 39 hundredths, okay? In the tenths place, there's a 3, so I would shade in 3 whole tenths. And then in the hundredths place, there is a 9, so I'm going to shade in 9 more little squares, just like that. All right, number 12, I have 71 hundredths, so that would be 71 out of 100, and I knew it was hundredths because my 1 was in the hundredths place, okay? 71 out of 100. If I look at this, I've got a 7 in my tenths place, which means 7 tenths or 7 whole columns are going to be shaded in. Let me get all of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1 is in my hundredths place. So I'm going to shade in 1 more little square, just like that. All right, number 13, I've got 12 hundredths. I know that because the 2 is in the hundredths place. So 12 hundredths is written like that as a fraction. If I look back at my decimal, I can see that there is a 1 in the tenths place, so I know I'm going to shade in 1 tenth. There's a 2 in the hundredths place, so I'm going to shade in 2 more little hundredths. Okay, moving on to number 14. This one is kind of tricky, so don't mess up. What place value is that 9 in? It's in the hundredths place, so I need to be sure that I say 9 hundredths, okay? How many tenths do I have? 0. So I'm not going to have a full strip colored in. I'm only going to have 9 little squares colored in because only 9 out of 100 of them are shaded, okay? Okay, number 15, 23 hundredths. I know this because my 3 is in the hundredths place, so I'm going to say 23 hundredths. If I look back at my decimal, there's a 2 in the tenths place. So I'm going to shade in 2 full columns. There's a 3 in my hundredths place. So I'm going to shade in 3 more little squares. And so that shows 23 hundredths, or 23 out of 100 of those little squares colored in. Number 16 is a lot like number 14. It's easy to get slipped up on. You have to remember place value. What place value is that 2 in? The 2 is in the hundredths place, so I'm going to read that as 2 100ths, okay? So I'm only shading in 2 out of 100 squares. So all I'm shading in is this much. So 2 hundredths is a very small amount, okay? All right, if you have any questions about changing those to fractions or shading in your models, go back and rewatch this section. All right, let's do the back of the page and be finished with the lesson. Number 17, there are 10 cars on the racetrack. If 3 of them... Sorry guys, my phone fell and we're having a little technical difficulty, but we will deal with that. Okay. Let's start over again on number 17. There are 10 cars on the racetrack. If 3 of the cars are red, what fraction of the cars are not red? Write as a fraction with a denominator of 10. So if I have 10 cars and 3 of the cars are red, the number that are not red is 7. The part, 7 out of 10, right? Because 7 are not red out of 10 whole cars, okay? So your fraction as a, or your number as a fraction with a denominator of 10 is 7/10 of the cars are not red. All right, number 18. On Monday, it snowed 0.6 or 6/10 of an inch. Write 0.6 as a fraction with a denominator of 10. That's easy because I know that 6 is in my tenths place, so it's very simply written as 6/10. Okay. Number 19, there are 100 students at the gymnastics competition. 57 hundredths, or 0.57 of the students are 9 years old. Write 0.57 as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So my fraction with the denominator of 100. 57 hundredths. That's so easy, guys. 57 hundredths. I don't even really have to think about that one. 57 hundredths as a fraction means 57 is the numerator, hundredths is the denominator. All right, number 20. The 4th grade class is donating 100 clothing items to charity. 63 hundredths of the items are sweaters, and 20 hundredths of the items are jeans. What part of the clothing items are neither sweaters nor jeans? Write the number as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So if I have 63 hundredths are sweaters, plus 20 hundredths are jeans, that means 83 hundredths of them are sweaters or jeans. But I want to know what part of the clothing items are not sweaters or jeans. So 100 100ths would be everything. I'm going to subtract from that the part that is sweaters or jeans, which is 83 hundredths. 100 minus 83 is 17 hundredths of the items are not sweaters or jeans. So this is my answer, 17 hundredths. Okay, you have to figure out what you have and then figure out what you don't have. Okay. Number 21 says explain to a friend. So you might have to explain to somebody at your house why 0.8 and 0.80 name the same number. If you go back to the last lesson, I explained that on what the second to last question on that lesson as well. I'm not going to explain it again. I want you to explain that to somebody. Okay. And then 22, how can I use models to relate fractions and decimals? Well, looky here. Go back and explain to somebody in your house how these models help you know the answers to these questions. So on 21 and 22, I want you to actually explain to someone in your house how you do these things, because teaching someone else will really help you to learn the skill, okay? After you explain to someone, then I want you to do your homework page, okay? Shouldn't take you too long, only 9 questions. Do your homework page, and then have somebody at your house check it, then go do the self-check on Schoology. Okay, that's it for this part of the week, and then we'll get into lesson 5 next week. See you later. Bye.